White skin on linen, perfume on my wrist, and the full moon that hangs over, dreams in the mist.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from the AAMP.TV mobile studios here in fabulous Las Vegas. That's AAMP.TV, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out the YouTube channel for the Sports Circus. Make sure you just go there, type in the Sports Circus, and hit subscribe. We have great shows every day, lots of great content, just like today here with Craig Bartock as the lead guitarist for Heart, Rock&Roll Hall of Fame band Heart. And I'll tell you what, Craig's done a heck of a lot more too outside of that. But first, before we get into that, Craig, I want to talk a little bit more about how you got hooked up with the two fine ladies from Heart.
Well, in the 90s, I had a successful production company with a partner of mine named Harlan Lansky, a dear old friend from childhood. And we were developing young artists and getting them record deals at the time. And a lot of those artists, like I was producing Brie Larson when she was a teenager and she had a singing career, and I produced and co-wrote one of her very first songs, and Reeve Carney, who went on to a number of things, and Richard Pryor's daughter Rain Pryor, Allie and AJ, and a lot of people like that. So we were finding artists, developing them, and getting them record deals. We were to the point where we probably had about like 8 or 10 artists on various labels. So we had we were approached by a management company, a rather large one that had a number of acts. Motley Crue, Blondie, Meatloaf, Yes, Heart, and they represented me as a producer and a songwriter. And one day I got a call, and they said that Heart wanted to go back into the studio and record their first studio album in 13 years, because they had taken the 90s off to raise families and to do various other little side projects, but they were ready to sort of get back into the whole Heart mode again. And they really were looking for somebody as a collaborator, somebody to just kind of kickstart the whole thing. And I had already just come off of working with Debbie Harry and Blondie. And I was also writing with Chris Squire from Yes. And I also had Nikki Sixx as a songwriting partner. So was doing very well in that aspect. And somebody thought that Nancy, who Ann at the time was living in Seattle, Nancy and I were both in Los Angeles. Somebody thought that Nancy and I would be a really good fit, because our musicality and our sense of just music and our history is very much alike. So Nancy came over to my studio one day, and we just it became like brother and sister. I mean, we wrote 3 songs. 2 of which ended up on the Heart album that I ended up co-writing and producing with them, called Jupiter's Darling. And, we just immediately hit it off. It was just one of these things. And then finally, Ann, a couple of months later, came down from Seattle, and I met Ann, and I had the exact same feelings. Wonderful person. This is just an amazing project. But it was one of a number of projects that I was doing at the time, but I really just valued Ann and Nancy's closeness and friendship. And we came from the same school of music, and we were, we did the whole album together, Nancy and I and Ann, and I played a number of the guitars on this particular album because it was in my studio, and Nancy would go home and I would sit there and I would pick up guitars and I would like overdub parts, and I would work on the stuff when Nancy wasn't around. So when we ended up doing the album, a lot of those guitar parts, they just had the attitude and the vibe already with them. So we just transferred them over and used them on the actual record. So one day I'm sitting around in the studio with Nancy. We're doing some mixing. It was just Nancy and I, and we're taking a lunch break. And a mutual friend of ours, Mike McCready from Pearl Jam, Nancy says to me, I ran into Mike at the airport, and he said, Craig really should be the guitar player in your band. And Nancy's kind of looking at me like kind of gauging me, and I'm sitting there kind of like with my mouth open. Did she just ask me to be in the band? And yeah, and that was Nancy's roundabout way of saying, if I would be interested in being in Heart. And by that time I had met the other band members, I had met the crew and management, and these are all people that I cared greatly about. And I thought, this is a family. And so I took her up on it, and we ended up like doing a lot of TV shows and performing the songs that I had written with them. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful introduction to getting into the band.
That's a good story. And I like the family part of it, because there's always fighting in families. We know that, but generally speaking, to have, real feeling and real togetherness as a family when it comes to the music business, folks, for a lot of people that don't know what it's like, it's a very cutthroat business in many aspects. And I'm sure that, Craig, you would agree, and you've seen a lot of things that are not very good in the music business. But at the same time, it's nice to hear a good story, a feel-good story about a legendary group on top of it.
Yeah, I agree. And, and we never focused on that. And by the time you get to a certain age, you've kind of been through the ringer and you come out the other side. So by the time I had met Ann and Nancy, all of the weirdness, the partying, the having to go through your first record deals, you're getting screwed with your publishing, all those things that happen traditionally in the music business, all that stuff was all behind us. So now we're just, we're people in a room. We like each other. We like the same music. Let's have fun and let's create.
Right. A big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, those watching on hotel television in 650,000 rooms, as well as everybody streaming at the Sports Circus on YouTube and on Twitch Prime. Thanks for subscribing. Back here with Craig Bartock, lead guitarist from Heart. I'll tell you what, good stuff. But Craig, I want to jump into what you're doing on the individual basis. What are you working on right now?
Well, I've always had this dream for probably about the last 4 years that, I get so many, I try to help people when people write to me on Facebook or Instagram, and they have legitimate questions like, how do you get the sound, or how do you write this song, or this and that. And I saw a real need for people just wanting to become more musical. And there's people, music is honestly the best therapy I can possibly think of for people, because in a song, if you write a song, you can say and express yourself in ways you can't do with just the spoken language and talking to somebody, especially during these divided, divisive times. You can say things and people are going to listen to that song, and they're going to interpret it in their own way. You could be talking about how divided the country is, and somebody could be listening to your song and saying, well, that feels like that they're talking about my relationship with my significant other. So people take songs and they make them their own. So my real thought was, okay, so how do I teach people to do that? And I came up with this idea of teaching musicality, which very simply means teaching people to become more musical. So it's as simple as, if you have a guitar and you really want to learn how to just how to play some basic chords to write a song, or just to sit around and play with your friends and entertain them, or if you have some experience with playing guitar and you're intimidated by how to write a song, well, okay, and you need somebody to help you get those creative juices flowing and get yourself on the right path, that's musicality. Or you say you have written a song and you're saying to yourself, well, I was really trying to write it to make it sound like this song, but why isn't my song as good as that song? Well, there's a couple of formula things that you just need to know, and it's not brain surgery, and these are the things that I teach people as how to enjoy your journey with music, and it could be the most simple thing, it could be complicated production, and it's like whatever empowers a person to go from this point and have some kind of writer's block or being intimidated by the guitar or intimidated by any aspect of music to get to the next point. So it's not about technology. It's not about musical theory. It's not about scales. It's about bringing out something inside of somebody and empowering them and letting them enjoy what they already have and letting them get to the point where they can do initially what they wanted to do.
Craig, how could people learn about that? Where could they learn about what it is that you're actually teaching? How do they sign up for this?
Yeah, well, I have a website and it's called yourmusicality.com. It's just how it's spelled, and there's no dots or dashes or anything. It's yourmusicality.com, or they can write to me at yourmusicalitynow at gmail.com. But if you go to yourmusicality.com, on the last page, there's a form you can reach out and contact me. And of course, you can friend me on Facebook as well. I like to be very, very accessible because I think it's important to give back to younger people or even older people who have had a career and now they have the time to actually enjoy music.
Let me ask you one quick question. We're coming up on time. Just a quick answer on this one. What is your thoughts on the idea of excessive profanity in musical lyric today versus yesteryear?
It depends. If it's warranted, yes. If it's thrown in just to shock, no. I mean, last night I happened to be listening to the first John Lennon solo album, and I was listening to a song called Working Class Hero. John Lennon drops the F-bomb twice in that song, but it's honest. I always come back to whether music is honest. If you're doing something because you're trying to shock somebody, that's not honest. But if you're literally upset and you're mad and you need to use those words to express how you feel, then it's all good.
Okay. All right. Last question, real quick. Tell us about your experience with Dancing with the Stars.
Okay. Well, that was we got there and our segment was pre-recorded because the stage is on the same stage where they do the competition. So we did Barracuda, and it was just kind of surreal watching the Dancing with the Stars dancers in front of me, sort of dancing, doing a sort of choreography to the song. It was fun to walk around the set. There's like a little set where there's like a little red couch where they sit on, where they're judging the score. So we all got a lot of pictures of each other holding hands and pretending like we're waiting for news to come out of our score. And TV shows are always a little surreal. They're not what you think they are, because like you go to Jimmy Fallon and he's in a little tiny room and it's just a little handful of people. It looks gigantic from the audience, but you're like in a closet and then somebody points to you and you play your song and that's it.
All right. Thanks, Craig Bartock, for joining us today from Heart. I'm your ringmaster, Sal. We'll see you next time back here on the Circus on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.